Hello everyone. This video is intended to solve a problem that you likely have in this day and age, which is way too many usernames and passwords for all your various online services and applications, both in your professional and personal life. So why don't we dive in and get started, not waste any time. The tool I'll be using today is something called KeePass. You can get KeePass from the website for free. That URL is keepass.info/download.html. I will put that link in the description of the video so you don't have to type it out. So head on over to that website, click download now from the link on the top left-hand corner. Do that right now. See the little timer tick down. It should start on its own. It does here for me. So just hit save the file and that will download, and depending on your browser, it'll look a little bit different where it downloads. But for Firefox, if you're using the latest edition, it does go up to the top right-hand corner. So I'm going to go ahead and open that file, and we're going to install KeePass fresh. You will get the little yes no prompts, and then it's like any usual software installer you're probably seen a few times at this point. So go ahead and click OK, and we're basically going to be just clicking I accept or the next button the whole time through this installer. There's really not anything you need to modify to get this going. So I'm just accepting the terms of service and all that. The default location for installation is totally fine. And all this stuff, again, you don't really have to worry about it. Just click the next key. And again, here you have some options if you want to make a desktop shortcut. If you're a person that has a lot of desktop shortcuts and wants to keep using that, that's fine. I personally don't. You can notice that I keep all my applications down the very bottom of my screen so that they're visible even when I'm in an application that's full screen. But go ahead and click the next button and install and let this finish. Should only take a minute or two, even on slower machines. And there we go. All right, so at this point, you're going to see something slightly different because you've never run KeePass before, most likely. So mine will look a little different, but you're going to get to the same place, which is we're going to make a brand new safe where all of your passwords will be retained. So I'm going to hit the finish button, and it's going to launch KeePass for me. All right, let's close out of this here. All right, so for me, because I've made a KeePass database before, I'm getting this prompt. So we're going to hit the cancel button so we can get a more fresh user experience here. All right. This is the main KeePass interface, and we'll show you what that looks like with actual data in it in a minute. But it's very simplistic. You've got a listing of usernames and passwords on the left-hand side and the actual content of those entries on the right-hand side, and then some text and notes that are down below. So let's start from scratch. Let's say we've just downloaded KeePass like you're following along, and we're going to make a brand new database. We're going to go File and New, or you can hit the actual button here. Let's zoom in so you can see. There are some icons here at the top. If you have a pre-existing database at some point in the future, there's a little folder icon to hit open, but let's make a brand new database. And it's going to give me a little informational message, just letting you know that how the data is going to be stored. So just hit OK on that. And it's going to give you a file path dialog box. So for the sake of this tutorial video, I'm going to store that file on the desktop. And I'm going to keep that default name of new database, that silly looking file extension, KDBX. That's fine. Just leave everything in default for this, the purpose of this video at least. We're going to hit save. And now what's going to ask me to do is to create a master password. So what the master password is something that you should never ever forget. It should be as complicated as possible. This is the one password to rule them all. It's the password you're going to use to get into the password database and access all the usernames and passwords for all your other accounts. So for the sake of, again, making this simple, I'm going to type in something simple as well. I would not recommend you type something this simple for your master password. I would use as many characters as you feel comfortable where you can still remember that password. This should be a password that even that you may want to just write down and store in a sticky note in your wallet. Not something you want to forget. So we're going to hit OK on that. And then we get some more settings about the database we just created. So I'm going to name it, Jim's database. And you can enter some text in there for the description down the bottom. There's some other tabs on here that you can play around with, but for the purposes of this video and keeping it simple, you can just hit the OK button for now. And it does even warn you about printing an emergency sheet where you can print out the master password piece of information. We're going to skip that for right now. Okay, so by default, KeePass pre-populates a bunch of categories of various accounts. So for instance, if you had, I don't know, a couple of Windows computers in your home, you may want to put passwords for each one in the separate Windows category. Again, stuff for internet sites, whether it be your Amazon account or your account for webmail or any number of different things, banking information. And you can create any number of groups that and name them whatever you like. So I don't know, we can say that this one is for work, and we can say okay, and then you can retain some passwords here under work. So KeePass does have search functionality, so I personally don't categorize much of my stuff for my personal life. For work, I do. Rob and I share, I think, 200 something different usernames and passwords. So managing all those accounts, all of which have separate usernames and separate passwords, because having the same password and the same username across multiple services, whether it be at work or at home, is a really bad idea from a security standpoint. This tool allows you to get around that by having that one master password, and then it almost doesn't matter what those usernames and passwords are for everything else after that master password, because you can go and just collect the information whenever you need it. So for right now, I'm going to make a new entry. I'm going to make it in the general category. Okay. So there are buttons for all this stuff. You can just hit the add entry button, or you can right click in this blank space here as well. So I'm going to hit the add entry button now. And you get, again, a very simple dialog box. This is one of the reasons I like this product so much. One, it's free. Two, it's open source. And three, it's pretty simple. You don't have to worry about too many of the options. There are options available, but it doesn't put it in your face and confuse you with too much stuff at once. So, all right, for the purposes of this demo, I'm going to say this is going to be my webmail account info, and I will put in my personal login info for webmail. You can type it in twice, so it tries to ensure that you haven't made any mistakes, haven't stored it incorrectly. It'll even tell you, again, the quality of the password. Again, the longer and more complicated you get, the more complex it is, the harder it is to get brute force hacked or guessed. And then this other field down here is the URL. So in our case, we're going to enter in the webmail address, which is webmail.thrivehosted.com. Again, this is just an example. You can do this for any website or in a variety of other services. But the URL is nice to put in for a lot of these services that are in a web browser, because it will actually auto open the link for you, and potentially, if the site supports it, it will allow you to auto enter the username and password in for you. So we're going to hit OK on this. And you can see now that under the general category, we have my new entry for my webmail information. And it lists, again, in these columns here, asterisks for your password, as it's going to tell you, and then, of course, your username. You can still retain this. I'm not going to click the button and expose my password right here, but this little button right here will actually expose the password to you, so you can see it. Even then, I don't have to use it that often unless I really need to know the password, because I can copy and paste it, and it's a secure copy and pasted method for that. So what we're going to do to show off how this works, not only is the information now retained, and now you can go back and access it at any time in a secure way because it's encrypted and whatnot, but you can right-click this entry here, and you can say go to URLs and then open it in the browser of your choice. So I'm going to open mine in Firefox. Try to put this side by side. So now if you right-click it again, you can say perform auto type. You can see it just auto logs me into webmail. So this is a little bit more of a secure private method of auto-filling some web pages. Sorry about the noise. And instead of, say, like relying on Chrome or some other cloud vendor to auto-fill in your credentials for you, because even then at that point, now you're relying on them to not have a security issue and release your passwords to the wild and let hackers get them or something like that. This is an offline, to a certain extent, an offline or at least a user-focused way of retaining your passwords. So this database file that we made, I think I might have ended up saving it to my documents, but It's totally under my control. I can upload it to something like Google Drive and then get to it from my phone. There is actually an Android and an iOS app for KeePass as well, so you can kind of keep this thing in synchronization on any device you go to. But at the very least, the thing is encrypted, and Google can't even get in and see the contents of that. So even if, let's say, your Google Drive got hacked or something like that, as long as the password is different for Google than it is from your master password, no one's going to be able to get into your KeePass database file. So that's pretty convenient. So you can also just do things like copy the password, copy the username. The nice thing I think about this, when you hit copy password, you see down the bottom right here, this starts this little timer. So about, I think 10 seconds by default, it will keep your password in your clipboard. So you can hit Control V or Edit Paste and paste it in wherever you need to in case the auto entry feature isn't supported by the application or the website that you're using. So that's pretty much it for KeePass. That's the basics. Like I said, oh, one last thing. Yeah, there is a search functionality at the top. If you start accumulating a ton of entries, like I have professionally and personally, you can just do up there and just search for any type of raw text you want. So if I had to search for webmail, like right now here, it'll come up with the actual webmail account information. It'll bring up, usernames too if you want to search for a username. So definitely use that, especially so things don't get too unwieldy. But again, categories or searching, keeping everything in one category is totally up to you. But that's pretty much it for this quick tutorial. Hope this was helpful and look forward to more videos about random technology lessons from me in the future. Thanks a lot.